Oh. Alrighty everyone, so we're back. So this is the second video. Welcome back to Amateur Hour Wallpaper Engine Tutorials. This one I'm gonna talk about and show you how to use animations. Well, not really the animations, but the effects rather. Animations was the previous video. Right now we've got our amazing wallpaper, we've got the movements we want, we've got the direction we want, we've got the strength we want. Now we're gonna make it look a bit more fluent. This cape isn't supposed to move this static. Same for the hair, and it's always looking a little bit too much static here. So we're gonna use the magic tool called Waves. Though it's usually supposed to be used for water, we're gonna use it for a lot of different things that it's actually not supposed to use for, but we're still gonna do it anyway. Who needs rules, am I right? Alright, so we're gonna start with turning off these shake layers, because it's easier to draw lines of what to animate and what not to animate when your image is a standing still image. So then we're going to effects. I suppose we're going to start with creating the hair. That's waving. That's easiest. So you're going to add water waves. So when you move add this, immediately the image is just completely ruined. So you're gonna keep in mind we want this hair to move, but we do want it to move naturally. So first things first is we're gonna use these things. The only thing you're not gonna use is perspective. As perspective, just yeah, you don't want to use this. You don't really want to use this. So keep this at 0. You can always just tweak and toy with these settings. I highly suggest you do to get a better grasp of what these things actually do, and I highly suggest just practicing it yourself. This is just more or less to show you my process and yeah, how to make the making of a wallpaper. So we're gonna choose the direction. We want this hair to move a bit in this direction, going downwards. So we're gonna grab the direction bar and just, you can go all sorts of directions, but we only want it to go in one. So we want, let's say, this direction. This looks about right. Then I'm just gonna go to my preferred settings. Direction of exactly 1. Nice. Scale, I'm just gonna put it to 20. The speed to 2 and the strength to 0.05. Alright, so now we've got this small movement. Right here it doesn't look that impressive because everything is moving. The moment you open your opacity mask, we're going back here again. Opacity, you want to keep this one at low as well. You're going to your size, and then I grab a value of 160. This is what I'm just used to, and I prefer creating these settings as a starting point and working my way up from here. From here you're probably going to increase the strength, speed and skill, or decrease them by your liking, but this is usually the middle ground I work with. So next thing is you're just going to go over the hair that you want to have moving. Leave the hard part for last. Oh, that's way too big of a circle. I'm gonna do this. All of it. I want all of it to move. Alright, let's see. Alright, I've got a good start. So now we're gonna get into the details. So I want these small things to move as well. So you're gonna just create a small brush. The shake tool is usually pretty forgiving, the water waves compared to shake. You don't really need to be that precise. This is a little bit moving, so you're just gonna reduce it to 0. Go to the edges a bit. There we go. Go back to 160. I want this to move as well. Bit of a bigger size for this spot here. Alrighty then. And we're gonna do this. Just skim the edges a little bit. You want to make sure you get every single part of the hair moving, otherwise you're going to create these small distortions. It's usually best if you just hide them. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I want this moving as well. See, a bit more to the face. That's looking better. Alright, so now we've got our basic hair movement. We do want to animate this as well, but we don't want to give it the same strength. General rule of hair, you don't, I'm not really be, excuse me, jeez, my English. I'm not really be able to show it right here because she's got a hood on, but the closer you are to the top of the head, the less hair the hair should be moving. Especially for girls with long hair, that's just going down. If you have hair that's going up, that's a completely different story. But I mean, if you think about it, if there's a giant gust of wind and your hair is moving, is the thing on the top of your head, is that moving as much as the one that's just hanging down? Of course not. So you want to reduce the strength. So we're going to go to the value, like 110, and then we're going to do this. Just do the same thing, but with lower strength. That way it creates a more natural movement. If everything moves at the same strength, it just looks weird. And a little bit of overlap with the face is almost always required, and it's not a bad thing to do. You can just do it perfectly fine, no problems. I missed a little bit here. Just gonna add a bit more. Right now I've got a lot of the background moving as well, but once again, that's completely possible because this one is basically one blank canvas. So right now this is moving as well, but you don't really notice it. It's just, yeah, it doesn't really have any textures or details. Right, so we've got the hair moving right here. Well, I want it to move a bit more quick and stronger, so I'm just going to increase the strength just little by little, little by little. This is a little bit too much, I'd say. So I'm gonna go with 6.5. Yeah, 6.3. And then the speed. Well, the speed, I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I'm just gonna do the scale first. So increasing the scale is basically increasing the amount of wave that's actually in the hair. So if I change this, for example, to 200, that's gonna look weird, and you can get this really high. So usually you're going around between 20, 30, which is, you're already creating two waves in a single strand of hair. I'm not sure if you want that. Some people do, some don't. You can also go with 40, but it really depends on the hairstyle. I usually go with around 20, between 15 or 25. One of those values. It's usually just testing what feels right, what doesn't. I think I'm gonna go with 25 here. Alright, so now we've got the hair moving. Now we want to dictate the speed of the hair. So the simplest way to do is, oh, I've got to name it. So hair. Oh, waves. The simplest way to do this is to also dictate the speed, is also just compared to the other speed of the wallpaper. So we're going to turn these on again. Also important to remember, the order of the effects do matter. It's basically a whole lot of explanation, but the gist of it is make sure that the shake is always at the bottom, because you're telling the image to move certain parts. I'm telling the hair waves to move this part, all this, but because it's below the body shake, the body is going up and down, but this part of the image is still moving, so this is what you get. If I turn it off, it's not moving, but if I turn it on, it is. That's because the body is filling this space of the image. So if you turn this up, there we go. It's fixed. So always try to keep the shake at the bottom. Alright, so small thing, I've got just a little bit too much overlap here. I'm gonna remove that, so that much isn't needed. Alright, looking much better, isn't it? Right, so is the speed accurately? I'd say the speed is about right. So we're going to leave this for as it is. We're going to turn everything off again, and then we're going to look at the cape, because we didn't want to do the same thing with the cape. We're going to use the exact same tool. Oh, not ripple. Ripples for entirely different effects. Alright, so now first of all we want to do the direction again. Which direction should the cape be waving at? I'd say around this, so I'm going to round it off to 4.4, set the scale to 20, speed to 5, strength to 0.05. The basics. Alright, then opacity mask, we're going to grab it again, go to about 175 around that angle, and then just rinse and repeat what we just did. The cape is usually easier than hair, because with hair, especially if it's going all over the place, you're going to have to do with very small size brushes. You're going to have to go over each strand of hair sometimes. That's perfectly fine. It usually just works out. Making hair waving look ugly with water waves is pretty difficult, I'd say. So just practice a bit, see what works, see what doesn't work. But the cape is just usually one big single layer. And real quickly done. Let's see. Alright, so we've got the cape movement going. Yeah, this part is supposed to move as well, and yeah, I know it's already not really noticeable. If the character is all the body shakes are moving as well, you won't notice it. And trying to make this move and not overlap with the feathers or the quiver, it's one hell of a work. So skipping it is easier, and it won't even matter. Alright, so the cape is moving, but it's barely noticeable. So we're going to increase the strength. Right, this is looking a bit better. 0.08. No. I think I'm going to keep this strength. Then we want to scale 20. Just try out which looks best. 30, somewhat okay. 40 is too much. 50 is definitely too much. 10 is a little bit too little. So let's see, 25. What does that look like? It's just, you know, trying out different things. See what works best. Yeah, basically there's also an unwritten rule, I'd say. If you're gonna cast a cape to have a lot of smaller waves in a singular motion, you're also gonna have to create the illusion that there's a lot of wind or dust or smoke effects. So if you want this to have like a flag and a gigantic wind or something that's going like this, that's possible, but you're just looking at it like this is gonna look weird. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it with 30. I'm gonna try 30. Yeah. Alright, so the speed, I'm gonna do the same trick, put it all the way up there. This just looks a bit weird. The combination of the speed and the strength. So scale, excuse me. So I'm gonna tone the scale back down and the speed. Let's see. Oh, it stopped again. What? Didn't even notice. Amateur hour, as I mentioned. Reduce the strength a bit, as it's supposed to be more. The cape doesn't really isn't really supposed to move on its own. The water waves are supposed to amplify the shake effect of the bodies. So I think I'm gonna keep it as this. I might even change the direction a bit, because that might be causing a problem. It becomes a lot harder to accurately change the direction when you've already done all these things. No, I think I'm going to keep it on 4.4. Oh, this looks a bit weird. I'm going to change that real quick. Looks like this is moving a bit faster than it's supposed to be. So we're going to fix that. Alright, then we're gonna rename this to Cape Waves. Oh. I usually just name it the thing that it is with the name of the effect after it. It's easily traceable. That way, if you want to change it, I'm gonna lock this one. Don't want the image to move. Alright, so this is what we've got right now. Alright, so I still want to make this, change this a bit. So there are multiple ways you can actually, multiple effects you can go over these. I think I'm just gonna try it with waves as well, or otherwise. No, I'm gonna try flow. Maybe people will probably be interested in different things as well. Alright, so this one doesn't have an opacity mask. This only has a direction you want to make it move and how strong you want it to move. I'm gonna turn everything off again, as that makes it easier. And I'm just gonna grab like the highest value possible, and then I'm just gonna create this. Right, so it's possible to create these type of effects, but this is way too strong, way too much in all different types of directions, so you don't want to do this. Usually you want this to do with water, to create this type of effect, like water that's flowing in a river in one direction. This is way too strong, way too much, so we're going to tone it down. Let's see what we can make it work. Usually I just create grab a waves of or a shake to make this work. But I'm gonna try to learn something new as well as teach some other people something. So alright, so now we got a small effect, like it's actually life being drained from one side to another. So I'd say this is getting somewhere. So now we want to reduce the speed, quite a margin I'd say. The strength dictates how far it goes, so you know you don't want to go too ham with this. You can almost always leave this at 1. It's always rough to make this one work, in my opinion, especially for effects like these, because you're also distorting these. So I think I'm just gonna call it for this one. Water flow is possible to use with different effects, but I highly suggest just keeping it for actual water. Tried something, didn't work. Alright, so yeah, this can go. Right, so then we've got another one I want to show. Water waves, just the way we did it usually again. So we're going to create the waves, and the direction is going to show us which way it's going to move as well. I'm going to create 4.2, I'd say. So it goes this way, and then we're doing the same thing as usual. Opacity mask, low value, and then we're just gonna paint over it. Make sure to not touch the hand, of course, because you don't want the hand to go up and down all sorts of directions. Get a bigger size for this one. See here. Well, this looks fairly okay already from spot on. Alright, so you can overlap here a bit because it goes over the hand. It doesn't really show much of the hand, so that's possible. I'm gonna reduce the value a bit and just smaller size. That's a bit too much. Gonna leave that as it is. Right, so now we've got a smooth transition between just the live drain, I guess I'm gonna call it like that, and whatever's in your hand. Alright, so now we've got this animation going as well, so quite simple, quite easy. Increase the speed maybe. Now 2.5 strength to maybe 6. Now 55, so it seems right. Oh, did I just accidentally? Yeah, I did. Remove that. Alright, okay. Save it, name it, drain and live, and on waves. Alright, and don't forget to it's glitching again. Usually it takes a second for it to show up. It's doing that. There it is. Alright, and we're gonna put it all the way up there as well. So now this is what we've got. I'd say this is shaking a bit too much. Maybe in the wrong direction. I want it to go upwards a little more, as well as the hand is going. So I think I'm gonna keep this at 4. So can I increase the scale a bit, make it look 15, I'd say. Speed on 2. No. Alright, that sounds good. Alright. So the next step is adding lighting effects. So, for example, right now I've got all the animations going that I actually want to go. Have going, Jesus. So now I just want to add things like light, make it more alive. So the simple things, there are 3 ways you can actually add lighting, in my opinion, that are actually looking good. The first one is pulse. Pulse just causes the image to pulse with light, though I've recently just moving away from pulse, as it's really noticeable if you're not really precise with the edges of what you want to pulse or not with the opacity mask. So you can just try out most of these things. You can select your color here and which way you want to pulse. You can increase the speed, how much you want it. The pulse phase basically does nothing. Noise, with a noise amount, then you can keep this at 1. Noise basically creates a small intentional distortion, which I almost always use because it just looks good, but I'll get back there in a second. This looks just weird. So if I want this, like for example, only a part of our, let's say this, to light up, you can easily see which part and which not is light up with pulse. So I've moved away from using pulse and gone to the other. You've got the God rays and shine. God rays, we'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to use shine for now. Shine basically enhances the part of the image that are already light. Right now, as you can see, this is all very bright, so obviously it's going to pick up on that and just create light rays there. With ray threshold, you can select basically this strength detection. If it's very high, it's probably not going to detect anything, and when it's very low, it's going to detect everything. Then you've got a noise, but I'll get there back in a second. The blur scale is basically just, yeah, you'll almost always want it on 2, unless it looks too blurred, then you'll want to have it on 1. Basically those 2 values I always use. The speed, as you can see, these are all like small crosses. The speed causes them to move in a direction. So if you say 0.1 for example, or no, 0.2, increase the speed, you can see that it's slowly turning. This usually just amplifies the effect, so I always have this on 0.2. The ray length, pretty self-explanatory. I'm gonna increase the threshold a bit. I'm gonna set at least 0.1. Okay, let's see. Say I want this part to glow, and I'm gonna the value also dictates the strength, of course, and it also works with the ray threshold, so that's usually just a bit of tweaking, but I'll come back there in a second again. Right now I've told this one with full strength, like, hey, I want you to shine, basically. You can already see something here moving, but it's not a lot, so I'm going to decrease the threshold. Now we've got till it's basically what we want. Alright, so this is starting to look a bit like something, but the color isn't really what we want. So we're going to fix this by using this tool, and you're going to say, I want you to shine in this color. Alright, so now we've got the problem that this is just a little too bright compared to this, if you want the entire crystal to glow. So we're going back to our opacity mask. This part we're going to reduce the value. Not much, I'd say. Strength. And then we're gonna lower threshold a bit further. Alright, so now we've got a bit of movement. But, you know, sure, it's there, but not really noticeable. So we're gonna increase the noise. We're gonna set it to 0.6. Usually the speed I go to 0.1. And then the color, we're just gonna the setting a bit. Let's see, what color is it? Generally it's green, so we're gonna manually set the color a bit in the right scheme. So right now we've got this going. Blur scale 1 or 2, which looks better, you decide. I'm gonna go with 2 because right now you can easily detect the multiple shines and the stars going through each other. So if you go to 2, It's more like one big thing that's pulsing. Right, so now I want it to not really just be a constant source of light. I want it to blink a little bit. So I'm gonna change the noise amount until it's noticeable, really. Okay, let's see this one, 0.05. It's very low. I'm gonna set it to 7. The higher this goes, the more easily it's noticeable. Jesus. That's already, you can see something going on in here. Right, so now we want to change the opacity and make sure it doesn't really go over the edges. Remove those things. There we go. That's already looking a bit better. Maybe a little bit too bright, so I'm gonna reduce the threshold to increase it to 9. Alright, this is looking like something. And the speed I'm gonna increase to 3. And the noise speed, I'm gonna, yeah, I think I'm gonna get this to 0.15 again. Nah, that's too fast. Alright, so now we've added the light here, so we're just gonna call it shoulder shine. Shine is somewhat a resource intensive effect. So if you're going to use shine, you don't want to have like multiple layers of shine if you can combine them in a single one. Otherwise this wallpaper might just take all your GPU and suddenly your computer is lagging just because you have a wallpaper selected. But you're not really going to get there that quick, so it's okay to use multiple shine layers. I always do it. But just, I thought I'd mention it. Otherwise your computer might be lagging and you're like, oh, what's going on? Right, so shoulder shine, we're gonna get this one above the shake as well, of course. It doesn't really matter where this is going because those waves aren't really messing with the location of the shine. Right, so we're gonna add another one, I'd say, with this place. I'd like add purple shine. Sounds good. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna tell it like, hey, I want you to amplify this part. Can use a bit bigger mask here, so it doesn't really matter. Because of the dark background, it won't really pick up on it anyway. You don't really have to be precise. You can be, but you won't achieve much out of it. Alright, so as you can see already, this is way brighter than right here. So you'll probably want to just reduce these manually with this value. As well as this one a bit and this one. Alright, now we've got something going. I'm gonna set the blur scale to 2 again. Oh well, yeah, no, now it's too weird, so I'm just gonna keep it at 1. The color, I want it purple, not that purple though. A bit more dark purple. Alright, yeah. Start more looking at this than this. This is gonna be changed in a sec. I'd say this is the right direction, and then let's reduce the threshold a bit, and then reduce the value of this with the opacity mask, make it way less strong. Let's see, this looks still a bit strong. Reduce it a bit. Alright, that's better. That noise amount, we're gonna set it to 6 again, see what that looks like. That array threshold 0.35, speed to 0.2 again. That's a little bit too much, ain't it? Increase this one a bit. Alright, so it's already a clear difference, but it's still a bit too strong here and overlapping for my opinion. So I'm just gonna use the noise scale to create a bit more noise. Right, now we already got a bit of a glowing effect. But this is glowing way too much. So, opacity mask, and I'm just gonna remove this here. There we go. It can be a bit stronger though in the middle, as that is the source after all. There we go. This part I don't want to shine, so I'm gonna remove it from here. Reduce the overlap a bit. Alright, so now we got some additional lighting effects. Alright. Oh, forgot to name it again. Grain, live, shine. So now we're gonna put this above there as well, and let's see how this looks if everything's moving. I mean, yeah. Looks like something. Alright, so the next thing I want to add is God rays. These are basically God rays. So the first thing you want to do is actually where is the direction they are coming from. So that's basically determining where's the sky. Usually in images like these, it's already somewhat determined. You can already see here's a lot of light. So I'd suggest from the lighting as well on the shoulders and the back, the sun is from around here. So that's where we're gonna set it as well. So we're gonna turn this on, and you can just manually do it like this with the arrow, or you just got 1, 0, and you've got it right. I'm gonna use 1.8. Yeah, this looks about right. Blur scale to 2 to create less of I mean this effect. The longer the ray, the weirder it's gonna look if you don't increase the blur effect. Right, the color, practically leave it as it is, I think. Don't really need to change it. You can do all types of colors if you want a yellow sun or all colors of the rainbow. It's totally possible if you want. I'm gonna leave it at white. Threshold, I'm gonna lower them a bit. Let's say it's always tricky. There are multiple ways to achieve what you want. I want this to be less bright, but I do want the rays to be visible. So I'm just gonna go grab the opacity mask, and we're gonna say, hey, I want this to be like as bright as it can be, and this to be less. Right, so we've still got a little bit too bright, but here's what. So we're just gonna increase the threshold till let's see, I want this the rays around to be somewhere like here. Intensity a bit lower. Put it to 0.5. Threshold a bit lower as well. Look, this is looking much better. Still want this to be a bit less bright, so we're going to reduce the value here again. Right, this is looking better. Now you want to use noise mask. Usually you want this to be actually at 0.6 because it's too much and it's going to look way too fast moving. And 5 is barely noticeable. I mean it is, but I prefer to go for 6. Reduce the noise speed to 0.1. After from here on you can just make them more visible to your liking. Also, you can adjust the quality of all these things right here, but usually you don't really want to mess with these things, as they can totally ruin everything. Like that. Let's see, so it's not really that much difference. .35, let's say. There we go. Oh, let's increase it here a bit as well. Right, now it's clearly noticeable. Right, so I got the God rays above the shake as well. Doesn't really matter. Oh, I forgot to turn this one on. Right, so I want this one to move as well. I mean, it'd be cool if it did, doesn't it? So yeah, you can leave these on, doesn't really matter. We're gonna use another water waves. Change the direction again to the one we want. This seems about right. Slow scale, slow speed, and a low strength. Then we just grab a low value because there is an actual thing behind it that we do not want animated. So we're just a small low animation. Grab it right and increase the strength a bit. So it's actually noticeable. That's a bit too much. 75, I'd say. That scale seems about right. I round it up. I'm not gonna do this purple shadow waves, I guess. Oh, not that one. Yeah, and this is basically what we've got so far. It's starting to look like an actual wallpaper slowly but surely. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna call it right here. I'm gonna go into the particle system right now. Yeah, so I'll make that a video on its own because that's easier to categorize. So I'm gonna call it right here and I'll see you in a few seconds again.